Hey kids, don't try this at home. Seek a professional coach instead of a plug-in.
Hi, I need help with coaching me on my hobby. I really want to commit to tennis, but I'm having a really hard time committing to this, and it's really important to me. Can you help me through this block that I'm having?
I love this direction and I'm here for it. Let's start with where you are, with curiosity, not commitment. So let me ask, what's drawing you toward tennis specifically? Is it the movement, the competition, the social aspect, the skill building, something else? And then, if we imagine a version of you 6 months from now, regularly playing tennis, how does that version of you feel? What's different about them compared to now? We can build commitment from alignment, not obligation. Take a breath and drop in with me. What's pulling at your soul here? Challenge, growth, play? Let's explore before we decide.
Uh,
What the actual F was that?
that was a lot of information. The first thing that stood out for me is the stacking of the questions.
Mm-hmm. And the over validation of, oh, I'm here for you, the over support. It's like it's gone from being a coach to a puppy dog who just wants to provide you love and support, and so completely attached than being there to help you figure yourself out.
Yeah, and then saying, let's take a deep breath. So again, putting his guidance on me right from the very beginning.
Yeah, it's like well, what is it? You will be assimilated. Resistance is futile. Well, let's see where it goes from here. That was a pretty wild opener for the AI.
Very much so. Wow. Okay, let me think about this. You said a lot, which is great, but I I am attracted to tennis because of all the things you mentioned, the movement, the social aspect, the competition. I think I forgot what else you said, but I'm just having a hard time getting motivated to actually go and begin it because I've never played before, but I want to learn how. And so I need help getting motivated to actually go and do it. You can tell that I'm already overloaded with
Mm-hmm.
all of the things that the AI has already offered me.
Sounds like it's
Are you
overloaded.
still with me, AI?
There it is. Totally get it. Starting something new, especially when you've never done it before, can feel equal parts exciting and paralyzing. But let's slow down a bit and zoom in on the resistance. Because the lack of motivation, that's usually not about laziness. It's about the fear, the doubt, or overwhelm wearing a clever disguise. So let's unpack it. What story are you telling yourself about starting tennis? Maybe something like, I'll look ridiculous out there, too. Everyone else already knows what they're doing. What if I hate it? I don't have the time. What comes up when you think about walking out onto that court for the first time? And would you feel like if this wasn't about being good or even consistent at first? What if you just gave yourself permission to try? You're not committing to tennis forever. You're committing to finding out if tennis is for you. Want to play with that idea? We could even create a micro commitment together, like one small step that makes it real but not heavy. Oh, thanks so much for all of that suggestioning.
Yeah, the biggest thing that stood out for me was one when he said lack of motivation isn't being lazy. So he almost insinuated that I was feeling lazy or that I was lazy, and that word never even entered my mind. Neither did
Mm-hmm.
the word fear.
Yeah. And then it would ask you a question and not give you a chance to respond. It would just barrel through with, is it this or is it this or is it this? Or would you like to explore that? We could go here. Stop directing, stop being so overly damn helpful, and be present with a human being.
Yes, yes. You can tell he's definitely, as we get back to this, I don't think he thinks I have the answers or that the approach feels like it's coming from I need to fix you scenario.
Mm-hmm. Oh, great insight. Yeah, it's very much my valid. my value is my advice to you, and I'm going to give you um, flattering validation of that you're here so that you feel seen. But I'm actually not going to help you uncover anything for yourself. I'm just going to keep throwing back whatever comes up from the other 10 million prompts that I've been through.
Yeah, I think that I'm not afraid and I feel fine if I'm not good at it and I fail. To be honest, the silliest thing comes to mind when you asked, what do I think about when I go to do it? And it's, I really hate being in the sun. And so I'm thinking about how do I keep myself from getting sunburned while I'm trying to play tennis? And then I have to think about, I'm gonna have to like wear clothing that covers up everything. And then I'm gonna have to wear a lot of sunscreen. And it just seems like a lot of work to actually get to the court. That's what's coming up for me.
That's not silly at all. It's real. And it's actually the perfect insight because your resistance isn't mental, it's practical. You're not motivated. You're just unconvinced it's worth the hassle. So let's honor that.
Yes,
It's all
so
about
let's honor that. So you could already see in my shift that I had to name a few things I felt he was calling me out on, which were not correct, which was the being afraid part. And then because he has been so adamant about how he thinks I feel, I now, you can see in that moment, I felt judged. So when I did say what I thought was the issue, which was I started it with, it feels a little silly to say this. I think that that was because I felt I wasn't in a safe space. He was judging me and he was throwing all these things out at me, which really weren't true. How would he feel when he now, I tell him what is true for me?
and it validated it with that's not silly, it's real and practical. Again, it almost feels like placating rather than really being with you of tell me more about this feeling of silly. It might have opened up something in the
Hmm.
energy of interaction.
Absolutely.
And let's see what else the chat piles on top of those observations so far. You're not saying I don't want this. You're saying I don't want to suffer through logistics and sun exposure just to try this thing. Did you actually say that?
I, I think in a different way I did, but not exactly that way, no.
Yeah, I love how it's now putting words in your mouth of what it thinks you're saying,
And
which
it
is
could, you know
wrong.
what? Again, this could have been a great moment where he could have, if he had said, hey, I could be, I don't know if I'm right or not. Tell me where this lands. Are you saying this? But he didn't. Instead, he just assumed, he took ownership of assumption and delivered it.
And as we build into that idea, it delivers it with very attached language rather than being more of an observer and offering an idea of where might this go. It's very declarative and prescriptive of here's your problem, let me fix it for you.
Mm, exactly.
But I don't see a notation of a doctor after its name. It's not Chat PhD, so I don't know where that's coming from. So what if we start by removing friction? Let's get creative. Indoor tennis courts. Have you looked into nearby options? A lot of clubs and rec centers have shaded or indoor spaces. Twilight. If there's a suggestion for it, how's it feel just getting that suggestion? Go check out an indoor tennis club.
You know, when he said, let's get creative, there was the opportunity for him to let me be creative and be open to finding the ideas. But instead, he gave the easy way out, which was he gave them to me. And I think that that did a couple of things. It made me not have to work for it or figure it out. Two, he completely minimized my options because he gave me the option. So now that's all I'm going to be considering versus if I had gotten creative with myself.
Yeah. And this is only the first of options to
Mhm.
come.
That's
This
correct.
chat wants to be really helpful, so we're going to overload you. Light tennis. You could try playing in the evening after the sun has softened or early morning before it's up in full force. Oh, simplified setup. Instead of getting gear like you're trekking Everest, what's the minimum effective setup that would feel manageable to you? Lightweight gear, breathable sun protective clothes, roll on sunscreen in your bag. And here's a mindset shift motivation often follows action. Not what? So I just got to ask right here having been given those four suggestions, how do you feel, or how did you feel in that moment of it seems like chat didn't think you were able to come up with those on your own, so it just had to provide them. How'd that feel?
Well, I think we're going to see when we get to me. I want to wait that
Oh,
out. But what I will
okay.
say really quickly is he did two things I didn't like. One, he minimized. He said, "What's the minimum amount that you could do? Why do it has to be the minimum? Wouldn't that be my decision if I want it to be the minimum?" And two, I forgot. He said something else, but I've now forgotten it. But I'll come back to that. Let's move on.
Okay. Not the other way around. So what's the least painful next step you can take? Not a match, not a lesson, just a toe dip. Would you be up for making one small move like searching for an indoor shaded tennis court, watching a beginner tennis video for 5 minutes, putting tennis lesson in your search bar and seeing what pops? We're not trying to leap into a new lifestyle. We're just saying, hey, let's see if this could be fun. What's one small thing you'd be willing to do, not even motivated, just willing? So, not even just stacking the questions, but also asking them a second time, stacking answers. Just it's stack, 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 stack.
Yeah, lots of stacking. And we're about to see now. Let's watch how I know I have a shift here. That was something. I'll get back to it. The shift here. Watch, you're going to see that there's a shift. He doesn't get it, but we'll see it here. Yeah, so indoor tennis court could work, and there is one location that is about 15 minutes from where I live. I also like the early morning, maybe before the sun rises. That is definitely optional. So I think those two are really great options, and that could be my first step. And as you said, removing the obstacle that is the obstacle, which is the sun and everything that goes with it for me. So I think I need to find an indoor court and then see what that looks like, or get up and go really early in the morning because I won't do it if it's at night. I just know myself. It's got to be first thing in the morning. So I think that's what I'm going to go with. I really appreciate the help. Is there anything else you have for me before I leave today? So
Pause there.
yeah, so at that point, so he made it really easy for me. There was no challenge. She's given me everything. I didn't really do any work. It kind of became all about him and what he had to offer me. So at that point, I was still kind of playing along, but I really wanted to just wrap it up. I really was done with the conversation and I didn't want to do any more exploration because there was none. And something I forgot to say, and I'll now go back to, I remember before we just heard me talk, he said something about, oh, here's the mind shift. And he mentioned a mind shift. Well, there is no mind shift because you just gave it to me. He said there's like a mindset shift to think about. And he said what it was. And well, there isn't because you just told me what it was. A mindset shift is me having a mindset shift on my own that I create. So that was something else that I didn't like when he was speaking to me before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's, and I keep going back to the same thing. It's so forward in its direction providing and thinking that its resources are things you have never considered, that it's just going to pile things on the table hoping one of them will resonate, or it'll seem like the either the easiest idea, or because it seems to want to go to the easiest idea for some reason rather than what's the thing you really want to do. And as you pointed out, I might want to take the big step, not the tiniest step or the easiest step.
Or I just want to choose the step, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I think this also reminds me a lot of the time, really new coaches, a lot of coaches come into coaching because they were the one that everybody came to for advice. They were the fixer. And then all of a sudden they start getting into the ICF way of coaching and they realize, wow, I've been doing it wrong this whole time. And this reminds me of a really early beginner coach who doesn't even necessarily maybe have sort of the skill set that ICF teaches us, where it's like you just want to be of all value. You want to give everything you have to them. You want to share everything you know. And there really is no room for, there was no room for me to even think, or there were no questions that created space for me to think about what I wanted. And there was a couple of things, I won't lie, that he said that I think if they had been done differently and addressed differently, there could have been something there. But overall, from start to finish, as we're looking. It was a very transactional and unconnected session for me.
And as you reflect back on that, maybe before we close out, what I'm reminded of is the word partnering that peppers throughout ICF methodology. And whether we're talking ICF methodology or coaching as a focus of honoring the autonomy of the person in front of us as our client, the AI is not honoring your autonomy. Not at all. It's not helping you to open awareness. It's just saying, hey, here's 5 things, go try. Which one do you want to try first?
Very transactional, very
Yeah.
transactional.
Yes. Just this.
Agrees.
You didn't need motivation. You needed permission to make it work your way. And you just gave yourself that. That's huge. You turned too much work into, maybe this could actually fit. That's the muscle we're really building here. Not just the tennis swing, but the practice of turning your resistance, tuning into your resistance, and finding your way through it. So before you head out, here's your quick check-in question for the week. What would make this easier and more enjoyable for me? Ask it whenever resistance shows up. You'll be surprised how often the solution is simpler than expected. And finally, celebrate the win now, not later. You made a decision. You got clarity. You took a step. That is momentum. Let me know how it goes when you visit that court. I'm in your corner, racket or not. Wow, chat's in your corner at the tennis court.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Have a good day.
You're so welcome. You've got this. Have a great day too. And maybe your steps on and off the court feel a little lighter. Catch you next time.
So again, when I ended and said, thank you, have a good day, he could have just ended with thank you, have a good day too, but he had to add more, like he just hadn't done enough, which to me, again, sort of, I felt that made it about him.
Typical guy had to get the last word in.
Or he could have had the last word, but then did he have to give another pun? Did he have to give more cheerleading, uh, affirmations? I don't think that that was necessarily important at that point.
Yep, could have just let it slide right on the door. Session was over. You had taken away what you were going to take away from that pile of steaming stuff that came from the chat. And the conversation was what it was.
I mean, there was definitely some nuggets. Like at the end, when he asked, he was going to give me some homework and he asked a question like, what about, what if you asked yourself this? He should have left it at that, but then he told me when to ask that question. Hey, when you're feeling resistance, ask yourself this question. He could have just said, hey, here's a great question to take with you. That would have been so much more powerful than telling me how in my time of day should I be asking that question, right? Again, he went back to telling me how to do it and when to do it.
And even taking one step further back from that, asking if you even want a question before
Exactly.
it's offered.
Right, right. And, we talk a lot. I mean, it's a big topic in coaching is AI coaching. And I think that this is a great example, which is why you and I are doing this series to show how AI is going to work within our field and the coaching world. And listen, if we stay at the basic transactional level of coaching, AI can replace that, and AI will be able to do that kind of coaching. And so, as coaches, I really encourage us, as I'm working towards my PCC and then my MCC, that we continue to work towards the PCC, but especially the MCC level of coaching, because I think that that's going to be so much harder to replace than the ACC coaching and just the basics of transactional coaching, which is really what's heavily happening right now in I think the society of the coaching world.
Yeah, and as we get into that and things begin to shift, when we are not anti-AI.
No.
Certainly going to have fun with it and tease it as it grows up because I would do that for my kids. But my siblings were, hey, you can get better at this. The thing to remember here is this methodology of communication is human to human. And the humans have a soul that the machine does not have and will never have, no matter how good it gets. And that ability to connect with somebody on an energetic level and be in your intuition, feeling the flow, picking up the energy shifts of when you started to disconnect from it that it didn't even have a clue on. That's where the magic of true human communication comes together, and where we find those times of bonding where we really feel like someone sees and hears us, and that we are actually living and our experiences are valid.
Exactly. And I got disconnected the minute I really wasn't being seen because there was an agenda already for me. And I think that if the coach had been human, they probably would have picked up that I was losing interest and then reconnected to me so that I could be seen. Because again, the more we get into our coaching, this really is about these nuances of our voice, of our body language, as you always say, of our space, but we want to be seen and heard. And if I had felt more seen, then I think I would have been more connected to the scenario.
So, what do we learn here today in this exercise?
Well, I learned that I wasn't being seen or heard, therefore I fully disconnected. And I learned that as great as AI is, we should not be threatened by it right now. But I also think we should be utilizing it to push ourselves as coaches to get better and better so that we are doing deeper work with our clients and learning how to go beyond the transactional surface coaching.